after spending 2,739 days in America, that is more than 7 years, I came back to India for good. Now it's been more than a decade since I came back. I've already done few videos on it. But one thing we have not openly talked about is how difficult it was to come back and to kind of settle back here. And it was more difficult than I thought it would be. It was probably also more difficult than leaving India was in the first place. So, why do I say that? And why am I talking about this today? Is in my last video, I talked about 7 type of Indians who are leaving USA in 2025. It got more than 90,000 views, and many people commented that, like, what happens after you come back? So I thought, let me complete the picture, and using my own experience and that of other people I know, because so many of them have been coming back last year, and I've talked to a few of them. What happens after you come back to India? And this is the reality that does not get covered as much on social media, but there are some hidden surprises waiting for you. What are those? That is what I want to cover in this video. All this on the other side of the intro. Keep watching. Welcome back to the channel. Interesting and personal video today, and it's going to be long, so let me get started right into it. Today I want to cover 7 harsh truths or reality that nobody tells you about returning back to India from US, what you're going to face. And in the end, I'm also going to share some quick tips to make your journey more smoother if you're taking this decision. Let's get started right away. And the biggest thing I wasn't prepared for, and that hit me like a sack of cold ice, was the identity crisis. To feel like a foreigner in my own country, my neighborhood, and sometimes in the extended family. A lot of people won't understand the rationale of you giving up on what seemed a great life in the US, right? So don't be surprised if they think you got fired or something like that. But even outside those rumors or judgments, the truth is that you just don't fit in anymore. You spent years, maybe decades in the US, you changed, India changed, and unfortunately you both changed in the opposite directions. You got used to systems that work, appointments that are honored, conversations that don't revolve around what's your salary or when are you having kids. But the biggest problem is something more subtle. After I got back, and because I had become more independent, not just emotionally but also financially, I prioritized convenience over saving every penny. However, I would see my parents haggle for 100 rupees here and there over things that look small to us but matters more to them. For example, you cannot explain to them why it's better to spend 100 rupee extra and take an AC cab. You would remain silent and accept such things because you don't want to come off as an arrogant foreign return person who has developed a superiority complex, right? So there would be this uncrossable chasm between you and people you love who stayed back in India. And it is nobody's fault that you think differently, but it's just there, and it takes years to close that gap again. In fact, it took me probably 9 years or more to feel in my skin again in India. So yeah, that emotional gap is a burden, and you just surrender to it because it's too draining to fight it off. Second thing I remember vividly is the financial reality check. So let's talk money, because this is where it gets really uncomfortable. You saved in dollars, you are spending in rupees. Sounds great on paper, right? But let's look at the numbers. Let's assume you saved $100,000 in the US, and thanks to the current US dollar rates, that equates to 94 lakhs rupee, which might sound like a fortune, right? But now let's look at what that actually buys you in 2026 India. A decent 3 BHK in Delhi NCR or Bangalore would cost you 1.5 to 2.5 crore rupees. I have myself spent more than that for my home in Gurgaon. Your $100,000, that's 30-40% down payment, you are still taking a loan. Let's look at children's education. The international school, because Indian curriculum feels alien after US schools, charge you 3 to 7 lakhs per child per year. A college in India, if they don't go abroad, 5 to 40 lakhs for 4 years. Example, Ashoka is 50 lakh including tuition and living as of today, which is not cheap by any means. So the truth is that $100,000 you saved over 5 to 7 years in the US, assuming you first paid off your education loan and had a six-figure job, it will last you roughly 3 to 5 years in India if you maintain even 60% of your US lifestyle. On top of it, your salary in India will be 40 to 60% of what you earned in the US, even if you get a senior position. So I've seen people making $150,000 salary as product managers in US taking 40 lakh rupee roles in Bangalore. Talking about careers, third thing you will notice is your resume is actually a liability, and this one hurts the ego a little. In the US, your value is attached to merit, what you have built, the scale you have worked at, the problems you have solved. In India, especially in traditional companies, value is often attached to relationships. How long have you been in the same system? The sutta breaks, how much face time do you get with your bosses, etc. I have seen people who worked at big tech in the US come back and be offered roles 2 levels below what they held abroad. Not because they lack skill, but because you are considered too risky. What if you go back again? You would never stay here for long term. You haven't managed Indian teams, etc., etc. Do check my video on this topic as well, where I showed how realistic it is to build your career back in India. If you're not intentional about where you land, startup versus MNC versus India first global firm, you can stagnate pretty fast. Now let's talk about the reverse culture shock. So you thought culture shock was hard when you went to the US. Now let me tell you, reverse culture shock is 10 times worse. So here are 5 reverse shocks we don't think about. 1. The bureaucracy nightmare. You need a PAN card update, 3 visits. Never ending KYC updates in State Bank. Aadhaar correction might take 2 months. Bring your patience and a thick skin for bribes disguised as processing fee. We all know the Indian jugaad, right? Then there is the privacy invasion. Your neighbors will know your business before you do. Your relatives will scoff at the salary you gave up to be back in India. Your parents' friends will constantly ask you why you wasted years in US beta just when you were going to come back. And there are infrastructure gaps. You have gotten used to 24/7 electricity, water and internet. Welcome back to planned power cuts and water tankers. Your car getting scratched in the parking lots and nobody is responsible. 4th, the professional frustration. You brought back Silicon Valley work ethics. Your new team operates on जुगाड़ and चलता है, इसको shortcut कर लेते हैं. You'll spend more time in alignment meetings than actually working. And lastly, let's not forget the Indian standard time problem. I remember my first few weeks when I got back, I scheduled a meeting for 10 a.m. The person showed up at 10:47 and it was normal, no explanation required. So I had unlearned Indian standard time for 7 years. Now I had to relearn it, and that's just the beginning. You're not crazy for feeling all this. You're just caught between two worlds and it takes time to find your rhythm again. Now let's talk about the biggest blind spot is when you are returning with young kids. If you return with children between 6 to 14 years of age, the adjustment can be brutal for them as well as for you. Let's talk education. In the US, average public school class size 20 students. Emphasis is on reading, curiosity, project-based learning, minimal homework in early years. Back in India, even good private schools have 30 to 40 kids per class, heavy focus on rote learning, and academic pressure starts as early as class 2. A child who was used to asking questions, being encouraged to think out loud, suddenly hears you have to finish homework, don't ask irrelevant questions, exams are coming. So parents then start scrambling to find IB or Cambridge board schools, which can itself cost 6 to 10 lakhs per year. Private tutors by the age of 6, and speech, handwriting and math support, everything needs extra help. And here's the emotional cost. Your child may struggle with language, accent, social cues, and you feel guilty. Even if you made the move for the family, you think you are doing them injustice. So this is not about Indian education being bad, it's about the fit, and the transition is far harder for families with kids. Then there is the quality of life, right? This is where you realize the limitations of money, because no matter how much money you have, you cannot buy some basic things in India. let me give you a personal example. So I live in Gurgaon. When I had to take my less than 2-year-old daughter to the doctor thrice within a month, and when she would just cough all night, I felt the most helpless I have ever felt in life. I am talking about the air quality, the AQI. WHO says the safe limit is below 50, and on a normal day, Delhi now has AQI of 200 plus, and in the peak winters, it crosses 450 all the time. How do you make peace with that? How do you justify not being able to give proper air to your kids? By the way, other metros in India are not safe either, maybe just a little better than Delhi. Bangalore runs AQI of 80 to 120 at times. Mumbai easily reaches 100 to 150, and if there was no ocean or the persistent humidity, it would probably be as bad as Delhi also. Even if you earn 2 crore a year, your kids breathe the same air. Schools don't shut for pollution, and outdoor play becomes conditional. AQI is just one issue. Talk about commute problems in Bangalore, safety issues for women all across India, waterlogging, road rage, bad sanitation, and just general shittiness of infrastructure in so many places. There are so many small things that we take for granted in many other countries. Yes, you can buy air purifiers, gated societies, weekend escapes, but you cannot buy clean air at scale. You cannot find walkable cities, and you cannot find freedom of movement no matter how much money you have. It just gets exhausting in the long run. Lastly, I'm going to talk about the healthcare paradox. Now, we know US healthcare is broken, but India has its own issues. So, hear me out. I feel both systems are broken, just in different ways. So in US, of course, we complain about that no matter how much pain I am in, it will take 6 to 8 weeks just to get the right doctor's appointment. The insurance is paying $400 per month in premium. Then there would be $2,000 deductible. One ER visit itself might cost you $3,500. You need a PhD even to understand your own insurance, and it's all very complicated. In India, let's look at the positives. You can walk in and see the specialist same day. You can get your blood tests done in 4 hours, not 4 days. MRI tomorrow, pay 6,000, get it done. When it works, the Indian system looks amazing. But here's the catch. I have doctors in my family. I know which hospitals to trust, which doctors are competent, and which labs are accurate. That insider knowledge is everything. Without it, you can be prepared for unnecessary procedures because doctors get commissions. Example, why do I need a dental x-ray from a dentist's trusted lab when I got one done from somewhere else? Now, even that is fine, but imagine doctors pulling out the wrong tooth altogether or operating on left instead of the right kidney. Yes, these are real stories happening to real people. Nobody takes any ownership later on. The doctors will just tell you how they can fix it, and it's not a big deal. I have heard of patients kept on ventilator even after they were dead just to make the bill fatter. Unfortunately, such practices are not one-off, and getting your health insurance to pay your bills is a whole different pain. Another personal story, my baby was born premature and my gynac did not give me an injection that I was supposed to have been given just before I went for my C-section. The result was that my baby could not breathe normally and had to spend 10 days in the NICU, which is the neonatal ICU, and few days even under the ventilator. It was the most stressful time of my life. Yes, it can happen both in US and India, but despite having doctors in my family and being well informed, I could not prevent this. Bottom line is US healthcare bankrupts you slowly through premiums. Indian healthcare can bankrupt you instantly if you make wrong choices. I know because I had to pay those NICU bills which are not covered in any insurance. But on the positive side, and this is for anybody who really wants to come back to India, and I have already covered in my much older video, You get to be near your parents, you get to assist them as they get older. You're there to attend small family festivals like Rakhi or your nephew's birthday, and it makes such a big difference to your mental health and wellness overall. So, coming back is a deeply personal decision, and if you're planning to make this move, here are my few tips. First, find a job in India before you quit your US job. Second, don't convert all your US dollars into rupee at once. Third, build your network before landing. Connect with people in your industry 6 months prior to when you're planning to come back, to be honest. Then choose your city wisely. If you're looking for tech jobs, better infra, and more expats, look at Bangalore and Hyderabad. If you want more traditional corporate jobs, higher cost but more opportunities, come to Mumbai or Delhi. And if you want lower cost but limited job market, you can even look at tier 2 cities. Then please manage your expectations, because you will not have the same lifestyle, you will not earn the same money, you will need to adjust. And lastly, create your own tribe. Find other returnees and expat communities because they understand what you're going through. The honest truth is, returning to India works beautifully for some people. They reconnect with family, find purpose, build businesses, and they enjoy the chaos. But it's a disaster for others who expected it to be easy. So don't try to fit into your old life. Build a new one is my parting message. Do your homework before you make this life-changing decision, and I hope this video can help if you are thinking about it. This is Nishtha, and let me sign off now. Please hit the subscribe button if you want more honest conversations around education, career, and life choices. I will see you guys next week with a fresh new video. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.